Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am going to be joined by Takshay Aggarwal. He is a global lead and partner of digital supply chain at IBM. You may remember we spoke to some of his colleagues earlier in 2020. We talked to Jeanette Barlow and also Jonathan Wright as well from IBM. So we're going to talk today about barcodes, and we're going to talk to barcodes and how they've evolved over time, and also how they've kind of evolved in the supply chain as well during the pandemic. And for anybody working in supply chain, specifically in warehousing and distribution, and especially very familiar with barcodes, and even in the retail side of things as well, as they help us with a lot of tracking and also kind of identifying product too, of the many SKUs that are out there. So Takshay is going to give us a little rundown of the history, and we're going to talk about how things have evolved as well. So Takshay, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Kevin. Great to be talking to you today.
Yes. Happy to have you on. So I guess before we dive into all the barcode talk, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role at IBM and kind of what you and I guess your team does there?
Oh, absolutely. So Kevin, I run the global supply chain practice at IBM, where globally we help our customers leverage some of the exponential technologies. You've heard about AI and blockchain with enterprise applications they have, and drive intelligent workflows, which does include barcode. And we are trying to move towards a future of supply chain where you can use data from multiple applications to drive all the digital differentiation customers need and drive new business models. So that's what we do in a small world.
All right. Very nice. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much to do within supply chain and global aspect, and especially within the pandemic, it's recently kind of just pushed supply chain to the forefront. So it's become such a talking point and such a popular thing that maybe before was considered maybe a little bit boring by the average person, but now it's got a lot of attention. So that's a really good thing for us, definitely, as well. But it's a good thing for kind of advancing global supply chain as well. So, we want to talk about barcodes today and kind of all about them. And it's funny because when I was talking to Joseph about setting this up, and we're talking about potential topics, and we kind of landed on barcodes. And then a little bit after we developed the idea for the show, your colleague and also a previous guest on the show, Jonathan Wright, he posted on LinkedIn. I saw actually he was wishing the barcode a happy 50th birthday. So it kind of fell right in line with everything we're going to talk about here. So So why don't you give us a little history on the barcode? Tell us how the barcode kind of initially got created.
Yeah, it's funny, the small little barcode which we see in our boxes and packages, either you buy it from a retailer or from Amazon. For me, there are a lot of boxes that come every week and a lot of them go back. How this barcode has changed. Barcode's got a very, very interesting story. Did you know that barcode was invented in 1949 by Joseph Woodland? He was not an IBMer at that point of time. He applied for the patent in 1949. It's funny, it took 21 years for IBM after that to build something, or build laser to read the labels and where the barcode could be used. When it first came out, it was a big sticker on front of a box. Again, not usable. So it was only in October 1973 where IBM introduced, after all the learnings, what will make sense on a pallet, what will make sense on a box, or even primary packaging, which you see in a toothpaste tube, to introduce it. It was called IBM 3660. And 74 was the first time you had a swipe at Mars Supermarket in Troy, Ohio. And after that is history. There were a lot of companies which jumped into it, but then UPC, as we call it, has become the standard for tracking your products through a supply chain. If you know, the whole GTN or the GS1 standards for tracking between retailers and manufacturers and everything around the world has transformed the way the industry is. And that's a little bit of a history for you from a barcode. Started in 1949, here in 2021, we are thankful for somebody who took a very path-breaking or a very forward-thinking view of how the world could be.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting, how long ago that seems, right, at this point, and how we are still so heavily relying on it because it's such a useful tool. You talked to there about the standardization and how it took some time for it to actually become standardized and more widely adopted. So what do you think, and what kind of was the trigger to push that standardization and kind of that more wider adoption?
So if you look at the retail, it's a very interesting question, which I sometimes grapple with myself. From few hundred SKUs, a store carries 50,000 plus SKUs today across the globe, depending on what size of a store you are.
Right.
And now you have hundreds and hundreds of manufacturers trying to ship your products. And if you look at a lot of manufacturers, let's just say common consumables, what we do on a daily basis, even your bread today has at least 50 variants, with seed, without seed, organic, non-organic, wheat, non-wheat. How do you keep track of all those SKUs? How do you make sure the shelf is stocked? And when you as a consumer walk in, you have choice of picking either potato bread or organic bread with seeds and, so much of grammage of protein and others. So that's how the need for looking at what different SKUs were, how do you track them, also keep a little bit of a sanity as you're pushing or selling your products into retail is what led to standardization of that. But then you see, before GS1 standards, there was no common method to track what was shipped between manufacturers and retailers, and consumers were at the losing end because they didn't know what the standardization was. There's some study about this, and it's a pretty often cited data point. Retailers today lose close to $1 trillion of sales because of lost, out of stock and others, and out of which 80% of those issues are because of master data. Going back to your humble UPC, your barcode, how do you track based on, GT numbers or the standard? So that just kind of gives you a little bit of background in terms of how barcode, which seems so innocuous to us today when it's printed on a toothpaste tube, or it's on a carton or a pallet if you are in a warehouse, has transformed the way business is done in the retailers and manufacturers.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And the number that you threw out there, I mean, that's staggering. And the 80% of issues stemming from master data issues, I mean, that's just crazy. I know for myself personally, I have an inventory control background in my professional background, and so obviously, the barcode is a big deal to me because it helps us, keep things in place. Like as you mentioned, if you lose stuff, it's easier to track things with barcodes as you scan it through the multiple processes within the warehouse and even beyond the warehouse. So it's really a powerful thing. And when people tell me that they're not utilizing barcodes yet in their warehouse or distribution center, I mean, I guess I shudder a little bit. I get very, very nervous for them. But it's something that's so simple, but yet it's so powerful. So why do you think that and I guess how did it become such a simple thing? It's like majority of barcodes are just lines in a pattern, right? So how does that become so powerful, and how is it able to, I guess, harness so much data?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing too. When you talk about the barcode, there are three levels of packaging on which you can have, which is the primary packaging, which I give example of toothpaste tubes. Then you have secondary packaging, which is at the carton level. Then there's a tertiary packaging, which is at the pallet level. And there are different industries. I'm just giving a simple example. Now, imagine millions and millions of cartons moving through different production lines and warehouses, as you said. Mm-hmm. So, the humble barcode and any of these, they get tracked into the enterprise system. So, whether you have an SAP or an Oracle, any ERP, you're doing the lot tracking, you're doing the batch tracking. So from batch to lot, from lot again to the shipment you have, and then as you go through your distribution network. So at a different stages of your supply chain, these barcodes are being captured. And imagine when you have a recall, these barcodes are the lifeline and blood of how to recall some of those products. So as you see, this whole data around barcode and traceability is captured both in your enterprise applications or systems you have within manufacturers. Then you get, if you're a distributor or you have your own distribution, and then finally the retailer, or the point of your sale where your back, your regional DCs, your back, space in a store, and finally your shelf. Mm-hmm. So this is a, again, multi-tiered capturing of this data with that one click when you're doing at a line versus when you're buying on a QR code. You as a consumer want to know where your food came from. You want to know, was it ethical? So again, we can go on and on about it, but this barcode is the information captured is from a very simple, innocuous step of being dispensed in the store from a raw material all the way to you as a consumer when you are trying to understand what the lineage of the product is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's pretty incredible, like you said, too, as the barcode goes through all the processes with the product, you're able to track so much. And like you said, in terms of a recall, it's a huge tool to be able to use and understand, exactly where that product is potentially living in time right now, right? Like where is that physical product at, and how can we get it back if we need to, if it's a recall, or how can we alert consumers if it's now on the consumer side as well. So really, really powerful tool, and something just, so simple looking. I think it's pretty incredible. So, we talked a little bit about the different steps of the barcode going from, raw materials, as you mentioned, to now going through production, and then through distribution, through retail, and then to the customer. But I'm curious too, how does a barcode get created initially? Where does that step lie in the process, and how does that work?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
So you have this, the different technologies in the market, be it Zebra or others.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a simple, you see those lines, next time you see those lines that are vertical lines, small and big, that creates a numeric code. So it's based on the series that's what creates those labels. And especially on the packaging boxes you get, there are two kind of barcodes, which are one from the packaging suppliers, but then you can give them a series of barcode which is generated by some of these vendors which you choose, or you can get those you can paste your barcode on top of it. But yeah, these are generated by standard systems. They are looking at the series of numbers, combination of that, and there's a clear understanding of what's there in that numbers and lines to identify your product. That's how it gets created. But then when I was talking earlier about the consumer one, then you get a 2D barcode, which you call QR code,
right,
which helps you now relate back that same information when you're on Amazon and you're trying to use their app to understand what is the right price for this. When you scan it in a store, I've done that before. In a store, you're trying to look what the price is. The same QR code then links back to their ASIN number and gives you the same thing. So it's generated by the different softwares you have with Zebra and others, and you're trying to use those sequence of numbers to identify a product. So that's how the barcode gets created, and then finally in your hand use that as a QR code.
I want to take a quick break to tell you about Variable and the new solution for on-demand labor. With demand always changing, why is your headcount always staying the same? If you're bottlenecked and overpaying for labor, your business can't keep up, much less scale. You can change that starting right now with Variable's on-demand labor platform. Post your work today and have bids from workers within hours. You'll be breezing through your backlog in no time with the help of the performance-rated workers you select. There's no volume commitments or term agreements, and you pay only for what you use. Post your first opportunity today at variableops.com/thenewwarehouse. That's VERYABLEOPS.com/thenewwarehouse. Now back to the show. Definitely, yeah, and I've definitely seen the QR codes and utilized them as well. And especially now with the pandemic, as we've been wanting to, I guess, touch less things that other people may have touched. I've certainly seen a rise in the use of these QR codes too, like for menus and things of that nature. And actually, recently I went to somewhere and they had one of those Coke machines with all the different flavors you can choose, and you scan the QR code, you could actually control the Coke machine from your phone. Which I'd never seen before, which I thought was amazing, pretty cool stuff. So, how have you guys at IBM, and you personally, I guess, too, have you seen the barcode kind of transformed and you become even more widely adopted across the supply chain due to the recent, or I guess still ongoing, pandemic?
Yeah, no, it took it took pandemic to remind us we should wash our hands and be careful of touching things which you don't want to.
Yes.
So, the irony is not lost on us. But to your question about how we've leveraged barcode, there are different intelligent workflows on barcodes depending on the industry. The first industry that comes to mind, and which is, I think, top and center of recall for all of us, is the vaccinations. So how do you track your meds in the whole supply chain? And if you look at track and trace, that is one big thing. How do you make sure that you are getting the right medicine? It's not counterfeit. So you would see on strips, not necessarily barcode, but different track and trace mechanism to understand both the lineage of the API or the active pharma ingredient, which has been used in the product, to get you to a medicine which you can trust and take. But if you're looking at the second place we've used is about one of the food manufacturers we use, so that when you bite that burger, in favorite chain, you're able to understand where the beef came from. You're able to track. You're able to tell a customer the state, it was tempered with, it was fresh. So it's changing the promise of quick service restaurant from frozen to fresh, and they can prove it to you. So that's the second thing we've seen. And thirdly, we've seen a lot of use cases or transformation in omnichannel. So when you're ordering that product from Amazon or the retailer of your choice, you're able to now track the whole life of where the product is, what was shipped, where it was shipped, was it buy online, pick up in store, or was it just pure e-com ordering? So these are 3 or 4 different use cases, and what we are also seeing now is barcode in combination with IoT sensors and others. You're able to track some assets in the field, be it the telecom or oil and gas and others. Those are emerging use cases.
Yes. Yeah. Very interesting. And, I like that you kind of took it in a lot of different directions where it's expanding, because I know on the consumer side, as I saw, the first thing I think we're seeing with barcodes is the use of it as a menu at restaurants and things of that nature. But it's interesting to hear, how it's driving so many other things, like you mentioned the vaccine as well, and making sure that's being tracked. And obviously that's so top of mind for everybody as well, especially as it's rolling out now. But I think the barcode it's just incredible how it keeps evolving over time. And since 1949, as you mentioned, it's grown so much, and it's grown into multiple different things and variations, as you mentioned, with the QR code as well. So it's really pretty incredible. So I'm happy you could kind of give us some information on that and insight as well. And now I'm curious, as we know the barcode now, and obviously we continue to learn its capabilities and how we can use it in different use cases and aspects as well. What do you think about the future of the barcode? Do you think the barcode can still continue to evolve, or do you even think that maybe there's potentially something that replaces the barcode in the future?
Well, look, barcode is so endemic to our capabilities across the globe, across different countries and different industries. I don't see a immediate future, at least for next decade, where you will not have barcodes. It's going to be barcode plus. So if you're running a blockchain solution, you still need the information. So you need the information either for barcode or IoT sensors or whatever data to identify the goods or services you're exchanging. So barcode is going to become a little even more embedded in the future technologies. First, it's widely accepted, it's cheap, and it is the infrastructure is already built. So I see that barcode becomes more and more integral as we become more transparent and open in our supply chains, where goods are sourced, how they're manufactured, how they're shipped, what were conditioned. So barcode is going to be part of the solution. It's going to be very difficult to replace the barcode as a technology of choice, at least for next decade. But again, we are evolving very, very fast. Whether NFC would replace it, or whether there will be some other technology, photographic printing or whatever, the jury is still out there. But for next decade, at least I don't see this being replaced the way it is today.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so ubiquitous within the supply chain. It'd be hard to replace initially, and I'm sure if you started to tell people that they had to use something other than the barcode and now switch over, I'm sure they would tell you, no, I don't want to. So, you mentioned in there too blockchain, which actually I was going to ask you about. So you must have read my mind. But the barcode itself, we talked about how you can utilize it to do that batch or lot tracking through the supply chain as well. And I know that blockchain, one of the things you can use it for is to do something similar. So do you think that the blockchain will replace that tracking through the supply chain, or do you think it will be a combination, like you kind of just mentioned about barcode plus blockchain being utilized together?
So blockchain is a medium of irrefutable data, but it cannot create data. Barcode is the one which is creating data. So, and it's present in a physical form. So when you look at a box, you won't have blockchain codes there or others. So barcode information will be exchanged through the blockchain ledgers. So Hyperledger or whatever technology is, the blockchain will further embed the barcodes into their trace and track kind of mechanism. So it will further enhance it. Now, you could move towards IoT with the sensors, or towards Bluetooth sensors. You need to have some mechanism to do it. So blockchain is not going to replace it; it's just going to use that information to build a irrefutable chain.
Gotcha. Interesting. So the barcode is kind of the capture, and then that'll kind of read out or give the output or the input into the rest of the process. So very, very interesting stuff, and really, really great insights and history as well. Thank you for that on the barcode. And it'd be interesting to see how the barcode continues to evolve as well. As you mentioned, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, and it'll just continue to grow and be maybe more prevalent. And people who are not using barcodes yet will hopefully start to use them as well to help with those master data issues that you mentioned earlier. So we kind of went through barcodes all the way from 1949 to now 2021, and a little bit into maybe 2030 as well, as we talked about there in the last question. So thank you for your insights on barcode, and I'm curious too. Now I want to hear a little bit about. I know you doing this little webcast series too for IBM called 0 to 100 Supply Chain, the webcast series. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Hey, it's not as good as yours, so let me just be very, very honest.
I appreciate that.
So, with the 0 to 100, we're trying to bring some of these topics which are front and center of supply chain professionals. There are some topics about how do you respond to the pandemic. How do you understand your demand, which is now really volatile. How do you make the sense of the world which does not make sense anymore? How do you put a method to the madness? And we're talking about certain topics about, is blockchain real? What do you do with blockchain now? And how can you use? We bring some practitioners, what has been done, what has not been done. And we're talking about a few topics like control towers. The whole world is trying to move towards control towers. What's real? What can you achieve? And what has been practical success? And then lastly, we're also looking at some of our customers, but also we're trying to shared with them what we call Institute of Business Value study from IBM, where we interviewed a few thousand CXOs and trying to understand from their perspective where they see priorities for supply chain. So those are kind of, IBM plus practitioners from the field, some of our customers. We try and bring them on and get their experience, share their practical experiences with our viewers. Again, it's not as good as yours, but we try.
I'm sure it's very good. So definitely something worth checking out, especially to hear about, as you talked about some of these future technologies which are now coming into play. And you guys at IBM, obviously, you guys are always staying on top of those different types of technologies and helping the supply chain to advance in that way. So Takshay, I want to thank you so much for coming on, talking to me today, and talking about barcodes, and also a little bit about your webcast series. Very interesting stuff. So how can people find out more information about IBM's supply chain division?
We have IBM.com is obvious choice, but we keep pushing some of our stuff on LinkedIn, other different sites, and there are studies which are published. I highly encourage, if you want to look at what we are doing, go to some of IBM.com website on supply chain. You will find a lot of content there of your choice, ranging from omni-channel to what we're doing in blockchain and AI. and that's the best place to find information for people. And if you happen to see some of if you like the web series, you could always go to the website and there download some of the discussions we've had with clinicians in the field.
Okay, great. And we'll put links to all of that on thenewwarehouse.com as well. So Takshay, thank you again for coming on the show.
Hey, it was a pleasure talking to you.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.